A question over who should succeed the late King Goodwill Zwelithini is now heading to the Pietermaritzburg High Court. His first wife, who was married in a civil rights marriage, Madlamini, has challenged his will in a statement issued via a royal faction loyal to Madlamini. It said that it has concerns with the validity of all the king's traditional marriages, which came after a civil one. This comes at a time as when the royal family is mourning the death of late Queen Regent Ntombi Dlamini Zulu, who died last week. Legal analyst Benedict Phiri joins us now in studio for more. Firstly, of course, Benedict, there's a lot to be said for what happens in family structures when matters like these actually end up in the courts, because they effectively feel that there's no way that this issue can be resolved amongst themselves.
Yeah, that's right, Kathy. I think often when any dispute actually reaches a court, and particularly a familial dispute, then something really awry has gone wrong in that functioning and in that setting. So I think there's really a lot happening within that royal family context that has allowed this dispute to find its way into the courts.
When we look at the situation as it is, does it primarily speak to the kind of will that was left behind? So has it been the clarity around the will that perhaps is not there? Or is it just arising out of perhaps general contestations that could well have been foreseen but just weren't addressed in the way in which the will was written?
We haven't seen the actual court papers as of yet. For whatever reason, they're under lock and key at the moment. But by all intents and purposes, this speaks to a dispute that could have actually been foreseen. It seems that the issue relates to the validity of the customary marriages that followed the civil union. And that is something that could have actually been dealt with or actually anticipated in advance, because these, at least the first marriage, the civil union, has subsisted since 1969. So there's been quite a lengthy period of time to sort out these affairs rather than end up in contestation right now.
Customary marriages are recognized under South African law. So what's really being contested here? Does it mean that the civil union has more or a greater standing within our legal system than the customary marriages?
They are recognized. We have a recognition of Customary Marriages Act, which I think came into force around 2000. The problem is that the first marriage is a civil union, and the Customary Marriages Act is very clear that you cannot enter into a customary marriage when a civil union is subsisting. But there's an even sort of bigger legal problem to wade through, which we're not aware of the details yet at the moment, being that the first marriage was entered into in 1969. And at that point in time, funny enough, all black marriages were actually out of community of property before 1988. And then the legal position subsequently got rectified. There's a court decision that came out in KwaZulu-Natal towards the end of January, which said that any marriage which was entered into before 1988, which was said to be out of community of property, is now actually in community of property. So there are shifting legal standards, really, that's impacting on this dispute, if we call it that way.
Is there something that could have been done about this while the king was still alive? So if it was to be contested, would it have been better to do it while he was still alive?
I think absolutely. I think first and foremost, the actual status of the first marriage really should have been dealt with, because after 1988, if that marriage wasn't actually in community of property, that could have been rectified, right? So that could have been rectified initially. We don't know whether that happened. And also with respect to the customary marriages, the king, while he was still alive, could have actually ensured that all the marriages have equal status, including the civil one, had he wanted it to be that way.
We've heard the traditional Prime Minister, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, describing just the action of taking this matter to court as being a shameful one, and basically bringing the name of the royal house into disrepute. But is it unusual to have people go and contest wills before the court?
That's not unusual. That's not unusual, and especially when there's a lot at stake and when families are not aligned or things haven't been clear in advance what should happen, it's not unusual that wills are contested and the right to inherit is contested.
So effectively, there's nothing extraordinary happening here?
Nothing extraordinary happening.
Outside of the fact that it's the Zulu royal household, of course. All right, let's leave it there for now. And that is Benedict Phiri giving us his perspective in terms of the legalities around this.